let's dive into this. So, Tito, thank you so much for joining us. I'll let you give another warm welcome to the rest of our audience, and thank you so much for joining us once again. Really excited to chat today. Let's get going.
Let's get going. Yeah, thanks for having me. Pleasure being here. Many of you know I've been on a ton of Sales Hacker podcasts since 2016. Always sharing my knowledge and trying to help others succeed. So it's kind of funny, but I live in the mid-market enterprise space, and sometimes we're looking at deals closing 6 months from now. So you might have seen it on the chat already. I'm like talking about closing 2023 strong. And that's because the deals that you're going to be prospecting now are likely not going to close until end of the year or maybe sometime next year. So it's a little bit of a different mindset. I do want to, talk about the elephant in the room. I'm seeing lots of conversations on LinkedIn, but they all seem to still have the same topics as before, such as like, hey, what's happening with ChatGPT? How are people using AI? What are the best prospecting strategies? And like, let's be honest, as I'm looking around, I feel like a lot of the teams that I used to talk to, 28 SDRs are now 8 SDRs, and 15 SDRs are now 4 SDRs. And like a lot of teams are being shaking up and reduce headcount. Some of them through some layoffs, others through just lack of rehiring. Somebody gets promoted or somebody leaves, and they just don't bring the headcount back to the previous amount. So it's quite interesting. What I want to talk about today is it's not just tech being shaken up. Like we're seeing in the economy some things moving around. Like there's a couple of like really big bank failures. Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank. I think the Chapter 11 bankruptcies over the past couple of weeks have been like the highest since 2009 in a 2-week period. Forward guidance on companies like Home Depot are the worst since like 2001, I think. It's absolutely nuts. And what does that mean for us as SDRs, right? Or for the SDR world or for the sales world? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is when we had economic prosperity and everybody had money and there were billions of dollars injected in liquidity into the market, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, you could prospect anybody and everybody. Even when you went enterprise, you could go after any company, blast the emails, and you'd start getting responses. And now that's no longer the case. Blasting emails and blasting messaging and hoping that you'll get answers won't work anymore, because you call them and then you're like, hey, you want to look at X? And they're like, yeah, we don't have budget. Budget is frozen. Now, it's somewhat predictable. Where is budget frozen? It's not like budget is frozen everywhere at every company to the exact same degree. Companies that are unprofitable, companies that are about to do layoffs, companies that are with bad forward guidance are cutting guidance. There are also companies that are more profitable, that are making some money, that are continuing to grow, that are doing better, and those continue to invest. So the first thing I want to talk about is, in a slowing economy, now you need to start to differentiate who to go after in a much more careful way. It's no longer about like, oh yeah, we sell to tech companies, so we should go to tech companies, or we sell to this industry, let's go after this industry. You got to be a little bit more careful at within that industry, who's doing well, who's not doing well, and can you approach the accounts that are going to be most beneficial to you. So first thing that I want to talk about is a little bit about account scoring. I'm talking to companies of all sizes. The small ones never have it, but even the big ones don't seem to have this to the degree of excellence that is needed in today's economy. So like I was just discussing with a publicly traded company in their SDR team how to do their account scoring. And they said, we have certain industries that we do very well at, but a struggle that we have is when I look at the industry on ZoomInfo, it's just one thing. When I look at the industry on LinkedIn, it's just another thing. When I look at the NAICS code, which is a industry well-known kind of like code that companies have about like what the industry they're in, is a different code. And therefore, I don't know what to use. Do I use one of them? Do I need to decide? Do I create my own industry buckets? How do I bucket accounts? And that's where account scoring comes through. Because if what you should be doing, right? Imagine if you sell very well to automotive, right? Or let's say lodging, right? Like, is Airbnb a software company or is Airbnb a lodging company? There's going to be like places where the answer isn't as clear. Is Carvana a car dealership or a tech company? What is it? Is Uber Eats food delivery? Or is it a car company? Or is it an app? Or is it, what is it? So there's a lot of these companies that have emerged that are in the intersection of these different areas. And what I recommend is, what you should do, or should encourage your company to do, is, let's say, grab your target accounts. Let's make it easy. Imagine you sell to companies that one of the criteria is that they got to have at least 1,000 employees. Cool, easy. You can find a list of all the companies that have about 1,000 employees. There are several thousand of them. Download your list and start enriching. Enrich every account with the industry on LinkedIn. Enrich every account with the industry on ZoomInfo. And enrich every account with the industry of their NAICS code. And at the beginning, this might sound counterintuitive. Tito, why would I enrich every account with 3 industry fields? Well, guess what? Uber, according to LinkedIn, is a tech company, but according to ZoomInfo, is a car company, and according to this other thing, is this other type of company. And what you're going to do is, by having all 3, now you can do an account scoring. So imagine you sell very well to tech companies. So if on LinkedIn your industry says IT and blah 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 technology, you give it 10 points. And if you are in this other area, you give it 3 points. And if you are in this other area, you give it 5 points. The purpose of account scoring is simply to surface the right companies to the top, so that as an SDR or as an SDR team, if there's 5,000 accounts you can go after, you have 5 SDRs. You don't have each SDR try to reach out to 1,000 accounts every month and blast and do whatever. You have a system that, yes, you're scoring industry. You might also score company headcount. You might also score something called money. When I say something called money, is how do you score money? Well, some companies are publicly traded. For many of those, what you can do is you can look at their quarterly reports and look at their earnings per share. Are they a profitable company? Or are they not a profitable company? Cool. What if they're private? You can look at, have they raised money? Have they given forward guidance? Are they growing? If you don't have anything on money raising, can you look at another proxy? Can we look at headcount growth or shrinkage over the last 12 months? If the headcount is growing, your money score is up. If the account is flat, maybe it's flat. And if the headcount is down, it's down. So I'm trying everybody to start thinking about in this slowing economy is something a little bit different than you might have done in the past, which is, rather than just rapidly going after anybody and everybody, be careful about the accounts that you're going to be sending to account executives. And even if you're an account executive, be careful about the accounts that you're prospecting into. Imagine you're in an active deal with Silicon Valley Bank. It's an enterprise deal for like 12 months. You're at month 8. Bank goes under. Where's your deal at? Dead. The banking industry right now is really suffering. Should you go about regional banks right now? PacWest, their freaking stock is down 67%. Do you want to go sell to them? I mean, I don't, especially as a CEO, because maybe you close the deal before they go under, but maybe you don't. And if you don't, maybe they go away. So you got to be a little bit careful. Now, that's just the very, very beginning of, your journey in a down economy. Okay, so we have the right accounts. We're getting these right accounts. The next step is to try to understand, how are the meetings going? Are these going to convert, right? Many times, especially in mid-market and enterprise deals, some of these deals might take 12 months, 16 months, 18 months. And because that's a long time, when you ask a VP of sales, hey, where are we? How are we comparing? What's our average sales cycle right now versus 6 months ago or versus a year ago? Those things take time to really adjust to the new normal. So like, if the deals before took 6 months and now they take 12, you won't know by month 7 that they're taking 12. You'll just say, we haven't closed as many deals in the 6-month period, or in the 7-month period, or in the 8-month period. But understanding how many of those deals are actually still going to close and they're just delayed versus how many are going to die is a very important distinction. How do we start understanding that? One of the most important parts, and I'm going to share some of the guidance here with you, is creating very, very specific sales stages in CRM. And the sales stages aren't only created and agreed upon by everybody, but they're also time-stamped. So instead of you trying to understand from the meeting was entered in the pipeline until the meeting was closed, what is that timeline? A really good proxy to understand if the deals are going to keep closing or not closing, they're just being delayed or they're just being dead, is to understand your stage-by-stage conversion ratio and your timeline. So if I were to ask you guys inside your company, what is the percentage of deals that move from stage 3 to stage 4? And what percentage of those deals die at that stage? And what's the average amount of time that it takes to move from stage 3 to stage 4? I can guarantee you that many of you, if not any of you, would say, I can't answer that question. And even if you go to RevOps, you'd be like, I have no idea how to answer that question. Moreover, we might have one account executive that uses stage 3 in a certain way, and another account executive that uses stage 3 in a different way. If you don't have coherence and you don't have an agreement upon what exactly is stage 1, what exactly is stage 2, what exactly is stage 3, how long should it take a deal to move from stage 1 to stage 2 on average, from stage 2 to stage 3 on average? And then if you have correct data, you might even segment. You might say companies between 100 and 1,000 employees move between stage 2 and stage 3 on an average of 17 business days. And they move from stage 2 to stage 3 at an 82% rate. 18% of the deals die at stage 2. They never get to stage 3. While companies over 1,000 employees take this much amount of time. Let me share my screen and show you some of the documentation that you might need to put together here in order to succeed. And Mikey, it says host disabled screen sharing. So maybe there we go.
You go now.
So you're lucky because if we weren't on a webinar, I'd be charging you several $1,000s to even look at this document. But one of the things that we're going to look at is, the buyer's journey and how to think about it. Your end goal is that purchase happens, but there's going to be a few steps between that and, when somebody doesn't even know they have a problem until they buy. I'm going to just scroll down and show you some of the stages. And I'm not going to show you all of them, but I think a few of them will just make sense. So the first thing that we do internally and with our clients is stage 0 meeting set. Why? Because I want to understand how many of the meetings that we're setting are actually going to be meeting held. Mm-hmm. And because my AEs manage all their pipeline in their deals, right? Be it opportunities in Salesforce or deals in HubSpot, I want all of this to be at a deal object. I don't want to have it a meeting or an event or whatever else. Is harder to understand the data. But look how clearly this is. When the meeting is held, it gets moved forward by the SDR. Move forward to what? To discovery held or meeting held. Cool. Enters this stage when the prospect shows up to the scheduled meeting. This happens across the company. Everybody's aware of this. The SDR, as soon as the prospect shows up to the meeting, we're going to move it to meeting held. Okay, that's easy. Meeting set to meeting held. Nobody has a question. But look at this. This is now moved forward if the client agrees to a second meeting. It doesn't matter what that second meeting is. If the client agrees to a second meeting, that's it. So this stage is entered when the prospect schedules the second call. So now, if we have this data, we can now see before the economic slowdown or in Q1 versus Q2 versus Q4 versus whatever, what percentage of meetings set ended up in meeting held? What percentage of meetings held moved to stage 1, meaning scheduled the second call? What percentage of these companies that scheduled the second call had agreed to articulate the value to the internal team and perhaps book a third call? So now we have a next step. What I'm able to do here is I don't need to wait until we miss quota for the quarter or miss quota for the year to say, hey guys, we're in trouble. I can proactively go to my board and say, hey guys, usually from meeting held, we were moving into stage 1 pipeline at a 63% rate. Now we're at 58 or 53 or 45 or 49. And before, we would move 90% of the deals the same day that the meeting was held because a lot of people were asking to schedule the second call immediately. Now we only have 70. The others want to go back, talk to their team, do things like that. So what do we need here? First of all, we need very clearly defined sales stages. Again, I only showed you 2. I think I have 7. You have the very clearly defined sales stages. Number 2, you need a time stamping report. As soon as a stage enters, or as soon as a deal enters the stage, you need to timestamp it. Why? Because if I timestamp that the meeting was held on May 18th and entered stage 1 on May 23rd, I now know there's a 6-day gap. And you can build a calculation, both in HubSpot or Salesforce or wherever else, that tells you it's taking that deal 6 days to move from this deal to this deal, or to this stage, from this stage to this stage. Once you have all your deals and all your stages, you can understand what's the timeline from move from one stage to the other. And then you can analyze your cohorts. All the meetings that we had our first conversation in Q4 last year versus Q1 this year versus Q2 this year, how are those progressing? Cool. I've covered a few different areas. We talked about account scoring and understanding what accounts to go after. And then we talked about sales stages. Questions that are popping up. Anything from you, Mikey?
Yeah. So I got one from John here. It came in a little bit earlier, but it's still relevant here. So bear with me, it's a longer one. So let's pretend you have an account and opportunity that has shown intent activity 6 months ago on a year-long sales cycle and may have reached an engaged demand stage from a marketing point of view, but then no activity afterward by any contact in buyer's committee. What are you doing to re-engage or reassess these? Who are you asking in your org to engage right now and why?
I mean, let me repeat to see if I understand it. So there was an account that was having intent.
Yep.
Ideally, the way you're thinking about intent is I have my account scoring system. My account scoring puts it's not a clearly defined line. You don't need like a perfect slice of what is what, but you can imagine that within your accounts, the accounts that score the highest, that's your ICP. Accounts that score a little bit lower, they're your target addressable market, and there's going to be some accounts that are disqualified. So when you're looking at your intent data and account scoring are 2 different scores. Account scoring is purely on the fit of the account. We sell well to consumer packaged goods companies. So if you're a consumer packaged goods company, you will not stop being a consumer packaged goods company anytime soon. Chances are, right? Companies don't just switch industries overnight. Mm-hmm. But having intent is a spiky signal. So what you should do is grab your accounts that have a high account score, and within those accounts with a high score, see what's spiking. Now, if something was spiking 6 months ago, you had a good conversation, and now they're not spiking and they've gone cold, I think you just need to re-engage. Now, it depends. If the account executive had a good relationship, they talked to 2-3 people, as an AE, I would try to re-engage. If I try and I can't, kick it back to the SDR, right? Like, I don't think there's a secret formula or a perfect workflow, but it feels like in today's day and age, more account executives are trying to prospect more because they're not getting as much inbound. And even the SDRs that are doing outbound are struggling to get outbound. So the pipeline's a little bit more dry and the sales cycles are a little bit harder. So the AEs need to decide, am I gonna, push harder on the deals that I have, or do I need to prospect? And I think you need to look at your pipeline and assess that yourself and decide. Now, given that this is marketing, I do want to segue into a little bit of how we think about the marketing data, because somewhat unfortunately, when there's an economic slowdown, marketing feels like it's not slowing down, even though it is. Marketing doesn't report that they're slowing down, but they are. And who knows that better than anybody? The SDRs. Because what happens? 2 years ago, marketing sent you 500 leads. Another 500 leads, you get 25 meetings. And you'll be like, yay, amazing. Now they send you 500 leads and you get 2 meetings. And you're like, what the fuck's happening? It's still 500 leads. Aren't 500 leads 500 leads? Well, sad to tell you, but 500 leads are not 500 leads are not 500 leads. And what I mean by that is we need to start understanding where do those 500 leads come from? How much intent do they have? At what point are we sending them over? At what point are these workable? So again, in an economic boom, you have better accounts, better personas, higher intent, people wanting to buy. When the economy slows down, marketing doesn't necessarily, depends on how they're getting measured. Marketing doesn't necessarily want to say, oh yeah, hey guys, we're spending the same amount of money, but our results are down 60%. They hate saying that. So what are they going to do? What we all do. Try to manipulate the data a little bit to try to not make it as noticeable, So I'm gonna
and also to just add to that too, like marketing teams, those that don't have as much budget can't then engage in more external, demand gen initiatives to then bring in the external leads to increase that number and then also the quality of it too.
and let's be honest, like, has anybody noticed that Facebook stock in 2022 like went down like 80% or something crazy, or like 60%? Dropped like a hammer. What do you think is Facebook's primary source of revenue? Advertising. Yeah. So guess what's happening? Companies are cutting their advertising budgets. People aren't advertising as much. Why? Because ads are not converting as much. Why are they not converting as much? People have less money. Not only companies, but individuals. So people are advertising less. So I'm going to show you a little graph. You can build this on your own. We do it in our own little ways. But again, when you show up to my webinars, I'm here to give you the secrets. Here's some of this is real data. Some of this is fake data. It's a combination. That's why it's in a PowerPoint too. But a little bit of what I'm showing here and what I want you guys to think about. One of the things that we do is every time we receive leads from marketing, we classify them into buckets. And there's a very predictable flow that I'm going to teach you about today. It's going to help you build a feedback loop for your SDR team to do better and for your sales team to do better and to align marketing with revenue. So step number 1, when you receive a lead, let's look at these, product leads. When we receive these 65 product leads, what's the first thing I want to do? I want to see who are these people? Because you don't sell to anybody and everybody, right? You already did your account scoring, right? If you haven't, you're going to realize that that's the base of the pyramid. That is the foundations of a good SDR team. If you don't have account scoring, you're dead. But imagine 15 of the 65 leads that I got from marketing are like john@hotmail.com. What am I going to do with that as an SDR? I can't even associate that to a LinkedIn profile. I don't even know what company they're from. It's a Hotmail address. Do I just email blast him? Do I try to get a meeting? What do I pitch him? How do I personalize? I can't do anything. So the first thing that I tell my marketing team is any lead that you send me that I cannot associate with a company, I'm going to discard. I'm going to count it as invalid data. Now, marketing, you got to decide if you still want those marketing leads that are Hotmail, Gmail, whatever else, and you're going to enrich the data over time, and you're going to associate them with an account, and eventually you're going to send them to me. Or if you're just going to make all your form fields mandatory asking company email addresses. The next step is to figure out if the company is the right company. We sell SDR services. We only work with companies that either already have SDRs or are wanting to build an SDR team. If I get South Florida Pancakes, which is a one location pancake company in Miami, to attend this webinar, should I email them and say, do you want to get a meeting with Altisales? No. It doesn't matter who attended. I don't care if it's the cook or the CEO. Either way, it's a bad lead. So the step number 2 is to discard the company leads. Step number 3 is if we have the right company, Okay, Snowflake, great company, love Snowflake. Good target account for us. Now they passed this filter, they got to here. But who came to the webinar? The SDR. Okay, do I want to call the SDR to sell him a $300,000 consulting package with Alti sales? No. So I'm going to discard the lead. Though when I discard the lead, I'm not discarding the company. I'm still going to go to the company and find the VP of sales development, and then I'm going to call them. Step number 4, I'm going to figure out if I got the right person. Imagine it's a director of sales development at Snowflake. So I know it passed. The data is valid. I know who they are. The company is good. It's in the target accounts. It was scored. Step number 3, the title is good. It was a director of sales development. Step number 4, do I have their phone number and their email? If it's good, then it falls into pipeline. Now that it falls into pipeline, I can go back to marketing and say, hey, marketing, you told me you spend $50 per lead on these product-led growth leads or whatever it might have been. Maybe it's easier to do on paid social and whatever, but there was a certain cost to drive these 65 leads. Imagine it was $3,000 or $300. Okay, you were telling me it was $5 per lead, but truly, the $300 weren't $5 per lead here, because if you look, we actually only sequenced 14 leads into outreach. So the $300 for product, it actually cost us not $5, but $20 per lead. That is the level of collaboration that SDR teams need to have with marketing, so that I could go back and say, yeah, you might think that these paid social leads that you're getting from Facebook at $4 a piece are amazing, but guess what? We're only sequencing 8% of those leads into sequence. So your true cost per sequence lead is through the roof, is ginormous. That is another way where we can start getting a little bit of a feedback loop and understand how do we do better. So then when marketing says, here's 100 webinar leads, you say, no, wait a second. We're going to go through this process and I'm going to discard these leads. I'm going to let you know what percentage I'm discarding. And then we're going to account for that cost. I'm going to give that cost up to our joint manager, who is the chief revenue officer or the CEO. And we need to agree with marketing that we're not going to count the cost per lead as in how many leads were created, because that'll create a gap. Because me as an SDR, I don't care how many leads got created. I can create 1 billion leads. I just go on Zoom Info and I download super cheap leads. Right? Or I go on LinkedIn and I export via Lead IQ or whatever else. Super cheap leads. We don't want those. We want high quality leads that are the right accounts and the right personas, and ideally with some sort of knowledge or intent. So that's the process. I'm also seeing some questions come in the Q&A. So if these are related to the topic that I'm talking about, I'm going to be paying attention to the Q&A.
Cool. So we got one from Mike here. When you're discarding leads, how are you tracking that? Via the lead status in the CRM?
Yes. Everybody has a proprietary process. We use our own kind of like, because we work across CRMs, both on HubSpot and Salesforce across different clients. We're actually doing it on Google Sheets, and we have some certain formulas, but you should do it in CRM. Or you can download the leads, work them, and re-upload them. But it's important for you to understand not only if they are discarded or not, but why are they getting discarded? Is this getting discarded because the account is wrong, or the contact is wrong, or there's no data kind of associated to an account, whatever it might be. So that's correct.
And then there's another one that came in a bit earlier from Fred. In a world where SDR leaders have pretty good stage progression data, and they're seeing longer times or lower rates of stage progression, how can they use this information to help SDRs perform?
Yeah, good question from Fred. What I would say there is you can't change the reality, right? Like if companies have no money, I always say selling isn't an action, buying is an action, right? If I say, Mikey, sell, can you sell?
Yeah, to an extent, I guess. Depends on what I'm selling. But if
no, truly, because selling is if I say jump, can you jump? Do you have full control over you jumping? If I say jump, can you jump, Mikey?
Yes.
If I say buy a burger, can you buy a burger?
Sure can.
But if I say sell, Can you sell? You can't sell. Selling is having another person take an action, which is the action of buying. So you don't have a full control over selling. You have full control over jumping. You have full control over blinking. You have full control over shouting. You don't have full control over selling. But what can we do? We can look at the patterns of sales. And what we actually got to do is look at the other side of the coin. We can look at buying behavior. We can look at the patterns of buying and saying, hey, our sales cycles are taking longer. Our win rates are smaller. And then can we split the data in some way, shape, or form and understand it? Wait a second. Selling to tech companies has slowed down a lot. But selling to the global 50 hasn't really slowed down too much. Look at this. Opportunities with Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble and Unilever are still moving at the regular rate. Holy shit, we need to go after consumer packaged goods. Hey, Marriott, Hilton, this, that, they're still in pipeline. They're moving at a regular rate. Those aren't slowing down. And then we go back to our SDRs and say, hey, wait a second, guys. Here's what we're going to do. Remember our account scoring system? Remember all those accounts that we scored? And we gave 25 points to every account that was in tech because tech was excellent. Guess what's no longer excellent? Tech. Instead of 25 points now, those are 3 points. You know what becomes 25 points now? Consumer packaged goods, hotels, travel agencies, whatever it might be. So what you can do when you start building account scoring is you can start looking at the patterns, and you don't need to do drastic changes in your strategy and say, hey, everybody, we're going to change how we do things. No, you just go and say, hey, guys, our SDRs always work the accounts that are surfacing at the top. The top 1,000 accounts get worked. We're going to change the scoring. And in your top 1,000 accounts, before there were 382 tech companies, now we're down to 93 tech companies. So the mix of accounts that you start working changes because you have a system in place that can adjust on the fly based on the information you're collecting. Cool. Now, let's be honest. Sometimes also we need to continue collecting data across. We talked about, a little bit about account scoring. We talked about some of the sales stages and have them be agreed upon, because if the stages are not agreed upon, like they say, trash data in, trash data out. So the sales stages need to be agreed upon. And now we looked at the leads coming from marketing. I want to talk a little bit about doing some surveys because I think the surveys are incredibly powerful. I want to share, again, my screen, a couple extra secrets for you all to understand what's working, what's not. One of the things that I want to understand is how well my calls are going. And I really care about this because there's a correlation between how well the account executives say the meetings are, how well they move in pipeline, and the account executive skill. Sometimes we send a meeting to the account executives and it doesn't move into pipeline. Was that because the AE wasn't good at, doing a great discovery call? Or was it because the meeting was actually not productive or not good, or the SDR made a mistake? So this is one of the surveys that I had my AEs fill. There's more questions here, so this is just a sliver of the information that we're trying to collect. But imagine that for every meeting that an SDR sends to an AE, they got to fill up the survey and choose one of these 4 options. And if we go bottoms up, option D is this a bad company fit? We get excluded from target accounts. No good. The account is wrong. Next step is the account might be right, but there's no project, there's no referral, there's no budget, there's something is missing that's big, and we're absolutely stuck. I didn't even get them to tell me who I need to talk to. I'm dead. So as an account executive, I'm giving up. There's no op. One step up is I learned something valuable, might have gotten a referral. There's a possible op coming soon. I'm going to keep working this account. It's nothing immediate. We haven't defined the project. We haven't scoped out the solution. We haven't done a demo, but I'm going to quarterback. Or one step up, my initial conversation was so baller that the client or the prospect decided that they're going to make this a priority. They're going to be talking to us. What this allows me to do is then do some correlations. I will be able to look at my account executives and say, if we send 30 meetings to every account executive and we send them at random, right? because again, you can find this blog on my on LinkedIn or on the web, but it says sales pods, good in theory, not in practice. I believe that SDR should be booking meetings for multiple account executives, and every account executive should be taking meetings from multiple SDRs, just so we can get some randomness in the data. But if I send 30 meetings to every account executive, what percentage of meetings do they move into pipeline? And out of those in pipeline, how many do they close? If the meetings are random and it's all sorts of different SDRs sending all sorts of meetings to different AEs, that shouldn't affect their close rate. So the only thing that should affect their close rate is either the quality of the meeting or the perceived quality of the meeting. Meaning did you get self-related pancakes or did you get Coca-Cola for a meeting? And then did you close it? So later on, if you collect that data and you have your accounts and your stages timestamped, you are going to be able to do the following. This is now the full distribution of the company for the quarter in terms of what percentage of meetings were marked by the account executives as soon as they took the meeting. Hey, deeper dive agreed upon. How many were, hey, here I got a referral or some valuable information. I'm going to keep working the B's. C's, the ones that they gave up because there's no op, and D's, how many were bad fit, just SDR messed up. As you can see, the distribution here is healthy. 44%, 41%, 10%, 5%. Fair. But now look at the conversions across different account executives. One account executive got 14 meetings. Out of the 14, as soon as he finished the meeting, he took those surveys and he said 13 of the meetings he was happy about and he was going to work. And out of the 13, he only got about 3 meetings to move into pipeline. How is it possible that an account executive can get 13 meetings that he's excited about, only move 3 to pipeline, while another account executive here, he took 9 meetings, disqualified a few. 1 he gave up immediately. He said 6 he was going to work. 4 were in pipeline. 1 of the 4 was already closed. Closed 1. That is much healthier. So again, I want to take a step back because we're going down the rabbit hole, but here's what I want to take a step back and help you think about. As the economy slows down, you need to have better data. You need to understand what is creating the problem. Was it that the meeting was bad? Or was it that the account executive didn't have the proper training to turn an outbound meeting into pipeline? Clearly, in the last example I showed, there's some account executives that are better at turning intro calls into pipeline. There's no question about it. Some are going to be better, some are going to be worse. Okay, so now we know that somebody's worse. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? Here's the key. You want to get one more slide? One more slide. Build a scorecard. Grab your top 3 account executives. I've been doing this across 70 clients, so I got some of the best ones out there in the world. This is an old template of mine. Take a screenshot if you want. I don't care. I have a much better template now. But what you can do is you can look at building a scorecard, the early stage of the call. How do you open the call? The main stage of the call. How do you do the main stage of the call? The bottom stage of the call, the last stage of the call. And then you score them. Did you get the prospect to turn their camera on? Score them. Did you build rapport? Are you seen as a trusted and knowledgeable consultant? Score that. Score. And then in the end, you're going to be able to know which of your account executives are scoring really high, which are scoring really low. And the score should correlate with a conversion from meetings completed into pipeline. If you can get those things to align, then it's really easy. Every month, you just grab a call or 2 of each account executive, score it. You now have a leading indicator of success of that account executive. You have your sales stages. You know how long it should take to move the stages. No longer do we need to go in the enterprise segment and wait 12 months or 18 months to say, oh, it's slowed down. You can know immediately. Your stage 2 to stage 3 conversion was X. How are your scores across your account executives going? Are they going up or down? Some people get into bad habits. I can tell you, I've worked with SDRs and AEs. I work with SDRs that we're booking 10, 12, 14, 16 meetings a month, every month for 3, 4, 5 months. All of a sudden, blip down to 4, 3, 5 meetings a month. And you're like, what happened? You look at the rest of the team, everybody's doing well. Like, is it the economy? Is it this person? You talk to them. How's your mindset? How's life? How's home? How you feeling? And they're like, no, everything's good. I don't know. I'm in a slump. Then you listen to calls and you're like, dude, when you were getting 14 meetings, you were saying this other thing. Now you're saying this new thing. Why? Oh, I heard about it on Sales Hacker because X person said that'd be a good idea. Hopefully not on Sales Hacker. But, somebody hears a good idea. They think it's a good idea. They implement it. They change their habits. Or before you were sounding more excited. Now you're a little bit less excited. Do you notice that? They're like, yeah, I'm equally excited, but I guess I got bored of the script. Oh, remember, it's not just a script. It's like a movie. You gotta live it. Every movie you watch, do you not know it's scripted? It doesn't sound scripted, right? So sometimes also SDRs, because they're saying the same process or the same script or the same flow every time, they start sounding a little bit robotic. You gotta help them think like actors, do the same thing and sound great without sounding robotic. Cool. I'm gonna take a couple of minutes to see if there's any questions. I keep people laughing at you on the chat.
Yeah, apologies for the fidgeting, everybody. But it's gone.
Selling is helping someone buy. Lol. It's true. Cool. Awesome. I don't see any questions coming up.
I have a question for you. I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to lose your track. But when you're in stages of having those conversations, what do you do and how do you account for the ones that, the anomalies, the ones that you have that initial conversation, right? And it doesn't really technically need to go through all the stages. It can just be like, hey, we're ready to rock. Let's go after that first conversation. And then it jumps right to the end. How do you, right to like potentially like closing conversations and so on? How do you account for those ones within the greater picture of, accounting for it all without skewing or having any impact on the overall outcome for each stage?
It's a very good question, Mikey. It helps me diagnose that the way that you're doing stages might not be the correct way to do stages. The way that I think about stages is stages are based on buyer actions, because selling is not an action. Buying is an action. Mm-hmm. Mikey, sell. You can't sell. But jump, you can jump. Buy, you can buy. Selling is not an action. So what you gotta do is the sales stage should be, we enter this stage when the prospect has said X, when the prospect has scheduled call number 2, when prospect has approved the financials, when prospect has done X. So if you have an initial conversation and thinking of my sales stages, right? Like scheduling a second conversation, they're going to do that. Next thing is they have to approve the ROI document. So the next thing I would ask is like, Mikey, we had a great first chat today. Usually our prospects after this first call, they want to look at the ROI of this initiative. That's our next step. Would you like to schedule that call? And imagine Mikey says, nah, dude, I did my ROI. I know outbound sales development is going to work. It's a slam dunk. Our average deal size is $500K. I was going to launch this. So I'm all set with that. Okay, great. The next step is usually bringing this to a buying committee with the ROI already done and making sure that everybody who has to know about this initiative launching is up to speed. Would you like us to schedule a call to have a conversation as a group, or how do you think about it? And you're like, nah, dude, I got it. Like it's me and my CRO. CRO is up to speed. They trust my decision. We're going to go ahead and like launch this. I'm like, cool. Next thing is to have the person who's going to sign the contract, receive the contract, get a debrief, and make sure that they don't have any questions. So Mikey, is it you who's going to sign the contract, or is it the CRO? Who should I send this contract for signature, right? Yeah. Or do you have any questions before I send this to contract for signature? You're like, yeah, you know what? It's my CRO. I was like, cool, great. So what we should do is, I don't want to blindly send a contract for signature to them. Should we schedule a call for Q&A, 30 minutes, do a debrief, make sure that they're up to speed on everything, and then after that, I'll send it for signature. Cool. Let's look at the calendars. Let's do it X, Y, Z. Then that could move from stage 1, a meeting held, or what I call stage 0, meeting held, because double 0 is meeting set, 0 is meeting held. The first one is, I have acknowledged I have a problem. The second is, I am introducing the idea to the buyer committee. Then it's the ROI conversation. Then is that. It can move from meeting held to stage 5. Because maybe when you came into the conversation, I'm going to flash you again a little bit of this part here, Mikey.
What's that?
It's all up.
Sure.
I was going to say I'm gonna show something on the screen, but this is the buyer's journey in orange. So sometimes I'm talking to you here. I want to help you understand you have a problem. Then I want to help you bring this to the committee and agree that you're going to be working on this problem. Then I want you to evaluate certain criteria. Then I want you to evaluate options. Then I want you to make a decision. And then I want you to purchase. Sometimes I show up to that first conversation. I talk to you. And like I was doing as an example, you tell me, Tito, we already know this is a problem. We understand the impact. I'm your champion. Our decision maker is our economic buyers, the CRO. The only thing we need, we've evaluated options. You're the best. We knew that from the start, but I love what you're telling me. We're ready to go. Can you send me a contract? So I'll move you from stage 1 to perhaps stage 5 or 6 or whatever it might be. There's no problem with skipping stages. If your CRM is set up correctly, the day you move it from stage 1 to stage 5 is going to grab stage 2, is going to stamp it, stage 3, stamp it, stage 4, stamp it, stage 5, stamp it. And it's going to show me that on the same day, it moved from stage 1 through stage 5 without any hurdles in between.
Got it. Awesome. One more here, Tito. Is it too pushy to send the MSA after the first call so they have all the information they need?
It depends what type of product you sell. If you're like Vidyard, why do you want to do multiple calls with me to send me an MSA? Right? If you're a cybersecurity solution that touches 7 departments, are you fucking crazy? Like there's no right way to sell, right? If I want to go buy, I'm hungry. I want to go buy a burger. I show up at Shake Shack. They're like, yeah, nah, we got to do another meeting so I can send you the MSA so you can buy the burger. The fuck you talking about? I'm hungry right now. So obviously I'm exaggerating. You get the idea, but it's all dependent on the product that you sell. Is your sales a quick product, or is your sales like a complex product? Can another person veto the decision? Sometimes I've gotten those deals back in the day, especially where I think my champion is my decision maker. And then they're like, yeah, I'm ready to buy. No, my CEO, trust me, whatever I say, they're going to do. I'm ready to go. I'm like, let me send you the MSA. I send the MSA. Silence. 2 weeks later, sorry, Tito, we went with another vendor. But what happened? Sorry, my dude, I recommended you guys, but the other guys were 20% cheaper. I'm like, my God. And it wasn't him who called it was his boss, right? So like you need to learn what is your sales process, what's your sales cycle, how are these decisions made, who can veto the decision, and build yourself a really good process so that you understand what is the step-by-step that needs to happen. Try to hold your account executives accountable to that process. You can implement MEDDIC so that you understand what are the metric, what is the economic buyer, decision process, decision criteria, all that stuff, so that you have it nicely laid out. That all those techniques and methods are definitely going to help people do better, and you got to be more pay more attention to detail when the economy is in a rough spot, because you don't want to be losing deals to dumb kind of like, I want to say mistakes, but like lacking the attention to detail. That carelessness might have you lose some deals, and that'll hurt. Cool. I think that's it. I know I have another really important call in 7 minutes. A couple extra questions. Anything else from you, Mikey? Anything else from anybody else? I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I know we had a ton of people. Thanks everybody for staying through. I think we lost like 15% of our audience. So for the 85% that stuck around with me, freaking love you. Thank you guys. Hopefully you got a good chunk of value. Keep up the good work.
And we love you guys too, and we love you too, Tito. So thank you for blessing us again with your expertise. Always love having you on here, guys. If there's any questions that you have for Tito, follow him on LinkedIn. Send a message if it's not too completely crowded in that inbox, and maybe he'll be able to get back to you, or for any other questions that you have for him. But again, thank you all for joining us. You guys are great. We love putting on these events. Stay tuned for more coming from the Sales Hacker side in the next few weeks here. But again, Tito, thank you. I'll let you go. And everybody else, here's an extra 6 minutes on your calendar to get ready for whatever's up next. But have a great rest of your week. Happy Thursday. And looking forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you again. Cheers.